Cunningham, handoff Johnson, into a triple team, out to Clark, 3 more! Clark fire away and hits a 3!
3 days ago, Caitlin Clark could barely walk straight on a basketball court. Back stiffness, missed the entire Portland game. And before this Golden State matchup, somebody pointed a microphone at Stephanie White and asked her directly, "How is Caitlin Clark's back?"
Is she injured? I guess is a fair question. Is she injured? Or is it something other than an injury?
And White looked at that camera with the most uncomfortable expression you have ever seen a head coach make, and gave the kind of answer that tells you absolutely nothing while technically saying something. Vague, evasive, the body language of a person who either does not fully know or does not fully want to say.
Is she injured? I guess is a fair question. Is she injured? Or is it something other than an injury?
Her back is sore.
Then Clark walked onto the floor last night. Golden State jumped out to an 8-point lead, and what followed was the most explosive individual performance of the entire 2026 WNBA season so far.
On that defensive possession, Clark, from another stratosphere!
22 points, 9 assists, 4 threes, a technical foul, a flagrant foul, a 29-17 third quarter that basically ended Golden State before they understood what was happening.
Clark just spins away from Hayes, fades, fires and hits. What a touch.
Indiana Fever win 90-82, and Caitlin Clark just reminded every single person in that building and every coach in this league exactly who they are dealing with.
Starting to heat up. Clark on the drive, draws the foul, banks it home, and one for Caitlin.
This is NBA Girl. If you want every game broken down with zero filter, subscribe right now and hit the like button. Let's get into it. Let's address the Stephanie White press conference moment first, because it set the tone for everything that followed.
What is your reaction to getting a warning from the league as a team for the injury report involving Caitlin? Medical questions, we can defer that to the medical team. We, to my knowledge, don't have access to talk to them.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't disclose anything that's not already disclosed by our medical team.
Before the game, a reporter asked White directly about Clark's physical condition. Simple question. How is she? What can we expect from her tonight? And White's answer was a master class in saying nothing useful. She talked about monitoring the situation. She talked about listening to the medical staff. She talked about being cautious. She did not say Clark was fine. She did not say Clark was limited. She gave the answer of someone who wants to keep the injury status ambiguous, and the entire delivery was so visibly uncomfortable that it immediately became the pre-game conversation, which made what Clark did on that floor last night even more remarkable.
Happened there as Clark bounces inside for Boston. Good patience.
Because whatever was happening with that back, whether it was fully healed, partially managed, or just taped up and sent out there on competitive will alone, she played like someone who had been locked in a room for a week and finally got released. No managing, no caution, no minute restrictions, just Caitlin Clark fully unleashed on a Golden State team that showed up thinking they had a reasonable shot at a road win.
Inside for Cunningham.
They did not have a reasonable shot. They just did not know it yet. First quarter, feeling it out. Indiana won the first quarter 19-18. 1 point, nothing that told you what was coming. Clark was in full red and react mode from the opening possession. Not forcing anything, not trying to prove the back was fine, just playing basketball. She was pushing pace in transition, finding the right pass, and getting her legs under her in a way that looked completely natural for someone who had just missed a game with a physical issue. Golden State's opening quarter was solid. They were moving the ball, finding gaps in Indiana's coverage, and keeping it close in a way that suggested they had come in with a real game plan. Tiffany Hayes was active early. The Valkyries' defense was making Clark work for everything without giving her the open look she had been converting at high rates in her last few performances. 1 point game at the end of one. Genuinely open contest, nothing decided, everything still ahead. Second quarter, Golden State takes over. This is where the game got genuinely complicated for Indiana, and where Clark's comeback story almost turned into a different kind of headline.
Starting a game out relatively fast, and then in the second quarter, we give up or showed out in the third quarter with a 20. Big three showed up. Aaliyah Boston, 20 points.
Golden State outscored Indiana 26-18 in the second quarter. The Valkyries' bench exploded. Caitlin Chen came off the bench and was converting at 64% efficiency. Tiffany Hayes kept finding her spots. Golden State's second unit ended up with 43 bench points on the night, a number that tells you their depth was a genuine factor, and Indiana's defense had no clean answer for the Valkyries' rotation players. By the halfway point of the second quarter, Golden State had built an 8-point lead, their biggest lead of the game. The crowd at Gainbridge that had been buzzing on Clark's return started to go quiet. Indiana looked disjointed. The defensive rotations were breaking down. The offense was not generating the clean looks that had defined their last 2 wins. Clark was on the floor for stretches of the second quarter, and she was fighting it. The reads were there, the passes were being made, but Golden State was in a defensive scheme that was making her work harder for every inch. And in those stretches where Indiana needed someone to break through the wall, nobody did. Halftime came with Golden State in front, and the entire narrative of the evening suddenly had a very different feel. A healthy Caitlin Clark playing her first game back from a back injury, and her team is trailing at halftime to a franchise that started this season as one of the league's weaker rosters. The questions were forming. The concern was real. And then the teams came back out for the third quarter. Third quarter, Clark destroys everything. 29-17. Indiana. Third quarter, let's go possession by possession through what happened because this deserves that kind of attention. The moment Indiana came out for the second half, you could see something had shifted in Clark's body language. She was not easing into possessions anymore. She was attacking the very first one. She pushed pace immediately in transition, getting the ball up the floor before Golden State's defense could set and converted a fast break that woke the building up instantly. 6 fast break points on 2 attempts for the night, and both of them came in this third quarter at moments when Indiana needed the momentum to turn. Then the threes started. Clark hit her first third quarter 3 with a hand barely reaching her release point. The kind of shot that goes in when a player is locked in at a level that cannot be defended. The crowd reacted. Golden State called a timeout to try to reset the defensive scheme. It did not matter. On Indiana's next meaningful possession, Clark drove downhill, drew the foul, and walked to the line with the calm of someone who has completely taken over the game's emotional frequency. She converted. Golden State came down and missed. Clark was already pushing pace again before the miss had finished bouncing. Then came the moment that defines what Caitlin Clark is as a competitor and as a person. She picked up a technical foul. The exact circumstances around it can be debated. Whether the call was right, whether she reacted to something a defender did, whether the official was too quick to escalate. What cannot be debated is what she did immediately after. She turned around. She set up the next play, and she made the next right basketball decision like the tech had happened in a different building to a different person. The goldfish mentality in its most visible form. Something happened. She forgot it. She moved on. Then the flagrant foul. Back-to-back incidents within the same quarter. 2 official actions against her. 2 moments where a lesser player emotionally exits the game and lets the officials live in their head for the rest of the night. Clark processed both and kept cooking. The fire that generated those incidents is the exact same fire that generated 29 Indiana points in a single quarter. You take one and you get the other. There is no version where you separate them. Aaliyah Boston was the beneficiary of every defensive attention shift Clark created. With Indiana's defense behind her and Golden State collapsing on Clark at the three-point line and in the paint, Boston was catching feeds in the post with a single defender and cleaning up the glass with nobody in position to challenge her. She finished the quarter with multiple second-chance opportunities that came directly from the gravitational pull Clark creates. The third quarter was Clark and Boston, working in perfect tandem. Clark creating the confusion, Boston converting the results. Golden State scored 17 in the third. 17. A team that had scored 26 in the second quarter was reduced to 17 when Clark decided the game was over. Indiana led after 3 quarters, and the result was no longer in doubt. Fourth quarter, closing it out. Indiana 24, Golden State 21. The Fever controlled the fourth without ever putting their foot fully on the gas because they did not need to. The lead was comfortable. Clark was distributing rather than hunting shots. Boston was protecting the glass. Mitchell was drawing fouls. Kelsey Mitchell's fourth quarter contribution was built entirely at the free throw line, and it was exactly what Indiana needed from a player in a closing role. 11 of 11 from the line on the night. Perfect. Not a single miss while shooting 4 of 10 from the field. That is a player who understands that when your shot is not falling, the most valuable thing you can do is attack contact and get to the line. Mitchell drew 5 fouls. Every single free throw went in. 19 points in a supporting role built on aggression and efficiency rather than volume shooting. Golden State's Veronica Burton and Tiffany Hayes kept competing until the final buzzer. Burton finished with 17 points by drawing 6 fouls herself, and Hayes gave Golden State 19 on 7 of 13 shooting. But the Valkyries starters shot 37% from the field collectively, and no amount of bench production covers that kind of starter inefficiency against a team with Indiana's top-end talent. Final buzzer, Indiana 90, Golden State 82. The full Clark breakdown, 22 points, 7 of 15 from the field, 47%. 4 of 9 from 3, 44%. 4 of 5 from the free throw line, 9 assists, 8 fouls drawn.
6 fast break points on 2 attempts, 1 technical foul, 1 flagrant foul. The 4 of 9 from 3 is the number that keeps growing in significance week by week. 3 games in a row now of elite 3-point shooting from Clark after the early season struggles. When she was shooting 20% from deep, the entire league was adjusting their scouting reports in real time, sagging off her, loading up on the paint, daring her to beat them from distance. That strategy is now completely obsolete. 44% from 3-on-9 attempts in a game she almost did not play because of a back injury is the kind of performance that resets every defensive game plan in the league simultaneously. The 9 assists extending a pattern through this season that is redefining how we describe her as a player. She's not just a shooter who passes. She's a genuine floor general, whose passing vision operates at a speed that no defense in this league has figured out how to consistently counter. 22 assists across her last 2 games combined. Her teammates are not just open when they cut. They are open before they have finished their cut, because Clark has already read where they are going and released the ball. 6 turnovers is the one number on that line that will not be celebrated and should not be. Clark is playing so fast and so instinctively that the turnovers are the natural byproduct of the style. But against the New York Liberty, who are the next opponent on Indiana's schedule, a team with genuine defensive infrastructure and elite perimeter pressure, 6 turnovers will be brutally punished. It is the one adjustment that has to happen. The big picture, Indiana Fever, 5-2. Both losses were overtime games decided in the final possessions. The 5 wins have been increasingly dominant and increasingly complete. Clark is healthy. Boston is putting up back-to-back double-doubles. 20 points and 16 rebounds last night. Her offensive rating of 122 against a defensive rating of 84, putting her in an elite 2-way impact category that only the very best players in this league reach. Mitchell is drawing fouls at a rate that generates 19 points even on cold shooting nights. The system is working. Stephanie White stood in front of a camera before this game and was visibly uncomfortable answering a question about Caitlin Clark's physical condition. Whatever she was uncertain about, whatever she was managing behind the scenes, The player resolved it by walking onto the floor and playing 40 minutes of brilliant basketball with a technical foul and a flagrant foul and 9 assists and 4 threes in a third quarter that broke Golden State's spirit and sent Gainbridge into the kind of noise that only one player in women's basketball generates. The New York Liberty are coming. The real test is 1 week away, and Caitlin Clark just told the entire WNBA, in the most direct language possible, exactly how ready she is. 5-2. She is back, all the way back, and the league should be very, very worried.